Hello, everybody. Welcome to my weird, wonderful world. And it's time to spicing up the content just a little bit. And talking about spicing up the content a little bit. Yeah, this year, me and my roommate, we looked online, and this is at 2.2 million Scoville. The hottest I've eaten is 1.6 million Scoville. So this will be by far the hottest thing I will be eating. Like I said, give me about 3 or 4 days from now, and I'll be making a video where I will open this up ceremoniously, preserving the box as well as I can because I want to keep that beautiful box. I love it. And eventually, I might even myself, after I try this, okay, will invite my brother on my video and have him try one, and he'll astound you with how much he can handle. He hasn't gone hot like this yet. I don't think he's gone as hot as I have, but he can handle it no problem, no problem, much more than I can. All right, so I want to talk about the I've been last couple of days I've been taking notes, going through like a lot of different sources, watching the actual hearings, of of September 19th, 1985, and I wrote down the filthy 15, what I know about, and there's a couple little funny stories about a couple of these. But I'm going to talk about censorship a little bit. I've always been one of those guys who is on the well, I'll just explain it this way. As with the United States, okay, when it comes to the Constitution, I have my pocket Constitution. Frank Zappa had his pocket Constitution on him too when he went to the hearing. So it all started. Well, I'll give a little brief start on it. It all started with this here. Now, none of the information that I'm telling you is not that you can't find it yourself on YouTube and that, but you're going to get my take on it, my personal opinion, just my personal opinion, and how I feel about this stuff and what I think about the whole situation. This is what this is kind of all about. I'm not here to give you a history lesson on this stuff. I'm here to give you my impressions of it and from my time of what I remember of it back in the time when it actually happened and when I actually found out about it, because I didn't know about it right, you don't always know about events like that right as they happen. But of course, it starts with Tipper Gore, suburban housewife, soccer mom, and but her hubby happens to be vice president of the United States, Al Gore. I think he was vice president at the time. But here he is, here she is going in her daughter's bedroom, cleaning up, and finds this CD lying around in there, and decides to give it a play. And then she gets to darling Nikki, and then oh, she gets into hysterics about it, and it when she realized what the song was about, she got her other soccer mom friends who also happen to have husbands all in the political arena, high up there in the governmental foray, and I guess Al Gore just got tired of hearing her complain about this enough that he said, okay, I'm going to make a hearing and send a hearing, and we're gonna, and she started, of course, the Pmrc, which is the Parent Music Resource Center, in in order to regulate what people see, and then she came up with the the filthy 15 as she calls it. No, I love watching that stuff with Yeah. So, um, okay, imagine. So, okay, let's look at the list. Okay, first, it's Prince with Darling Nikki. Sheena Easton with Sugar Walls, Judas Priest with Eat 'Em Alive, Vanity, which I have no idea. I've never ever heard of Vanity. I've never ever heard that song before, but apparently Strap On Robbie Baby. Of course, Motley Crue, Bastard, AC/DC, Let Me Put My Love Into You, Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It, Madonna, Dress You Up, Wasp, Animal, F Like a Beast. Def Leppard, High and Dry, Saturday Night. I got a funny story with Animal. I'll tell you. And my best friend Little Mo could testify to this story for sure. There's Merciful Fate, Into the Coven, Black Sabbath, Thrash, Mary Jane Girls in my house, which I don't know. I'm not familiar with the Mary Jane Girls. The ones that I'm not really familiar with as much as Easton, Sheena Easton, the Sugar Walls, the Vanity one, and the Mary Jane Girls. All the rest I know. Venom Possessed and Cyndi Lauper, Shebop, and for various reasons, either for sex talk, too much sex talk, or drug use, or in the case of Merciful Faith and Venom, it's the occult, the spooky occult, all witchcraft, the satanic panic of the time. Remember, this is 1985. This is September 19th of 1985, and when it comes to that Wasp, right? It was a on LP. We had like it was like it was a different when we were playing it, right? For almost a good week or a week and a half, we had the album. And remember, I'm 15. I'm 15, 16 years old when Wasp, the animal came out. And one of us, somebody had this on LP, and when we were playing it, we didn't realize it was on the wrong speed. We've heard some other Wasp songs, and they sounded normal and cool, and like every other band out there, but their own unique way too. But when we got that record, we were mystified why it was sounding why God. It was because we were playing it on the wrong speed. We were playing it too slow, and we didn't realize we thought that was the song. That was just one of these weird songs that it was meant to be low and heavy, and then realizing when it finally dawned on me how stupid I was, and it was at the wrong speed, and heard it at normal speed, then boom, light bulb goes off, and it's like, oh, of course, that's what it is. And then of course, but I again, you think, okay, impressionable at that age. It was like a badge of honor, the kind of to be able to. My parents didn't really care. They never ever dug too deep into it. My parents were not the ones. I mean, when we were younger, yeah, they were censoring certain things for a little bit, but at a certain point, when in our early teens, they just kind of stopped and abandoned that because we had access to it. They couldn't stop us from getting access to some of that material that were banned. Especially in my teens when I started working, when I was about 16, 17, and I started working these odd jobs here and there and started making a little bit of money for myself, yeah, I would get some of this stuff. And yeah, yeah. So I remember that. And all these songs, except for the three that I pointed out, I have no problem with that. But but you can and you but you can watch it. You can watch the hearing with because they had coming in there. First, it was Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa, and he said a couple of things that were just like impeccable, like talking about talking about the warning labels and that, and Frank Zappa compared it to. Well, here's what he said, and I quote: "Treating dandruff by decapitation." Unquote. Like articulate, and he said, of course, he said in a poetic way, he's an artist. Artists again, these were artists against frumpy, uptight, stiff, you know, bureaucrats and just like not fun, not fun. Oh, sidebar. Okay, completely off topic for a second. I just want to throw this in. Okay, I don't know how. I don't know how true this is, but it does not surprise me. Apparently, though, Donald Trump has never been known or ever seen to to laugh or to ever have made a joke, laugh at or ever made a joke. I don't think he doesn't have a comedic bone in his body. I don't think he understands comedy whatsoever. He doesn't understand satire. I think he's just so business driven that imagine never ever telling a joke or laughing at a joke ever. Apparently that's true. I don't know how true it is. If you know more about it than I do, let me know. But yeah, but Frank Zappa. When it comes to artists, he's also been known to because on top of that, right? When the PMRC, those soccer moms and of the Tipper Gore and her little horde there, they take and I'm not the one that said this, but they take that moral high ground of righteous indignation. That's how that's the stuffy people. Oh, and but there was another company that was piggybacking on top of the trying to get the PMRC codes. Okay, as an example, right here, these right. But what the public doesn't, what most of the public is not aware of, is that they were going to be putting that on there anyway. The record companies, even before the PMRC started up, because they knew, because they know, you provocative stuff it attracts people, and bands were happy about this because if they wanted to put this on there, because they knew they were going to sell more records, and they wanted that to be, so this was a badge of honor. This was a big this had the Barbara Streisand effect. You know what the Barbara Streisand effect? I'm not going to explain it. Look it up, but it applies to that. The more they tried the more hoopla they made about it, the more now people know. Oh, that's the album that has the explicit lyrics. Before it was just a guessing game, and you only know when you listen to it. And again, music is all interpretive, as we're going to come up with the second person they had at the hearing. But yeah, the continue. But yeah, but on top, like I was going to say, on top of that, they had the RIAA, which is a part of they work for the record companies and that, and what they wanted to do was put they have a bill on home audio recordings, a tax. They wanted to tax cassette tapes. So because they were saying whenever people take their cassette tapes and they record stuff either off the radio or from another cassette or whatever, it's infringing on our copyrights. So they wanted to tax that. They wanted to tax that cassette tapes, and they were writing on the backs of the it never took hold. They've never, of course, we know in history that they never put this darn tax on cassettes. Okay, they lost that, right? But the PMRC, they wanted their little sticker and they got it. But yeah, but it was nonsense because it really, yeah. So when talking about the bill, that tax bill on home audio recording. And again, I quote Frank Zappa's quote, they sold out the First Amendment to get a bill through that would put a tax on blank tapes. That's the real obscenity, unquote. Again, Frank Zappa has a way with words. I love his stuff, and I'm so happy to have his albums so good. But I also want to kind of bring up a few others that I have written down here. I don't want to show you the back of this because that's tomorrow's episode. This is only part one. I'm going to continue to talk with a slightly different subject, but still very much related to the to these preconceived ideas of obscenities, which I'll get into with the next guest, okay, with the next one they had at the hearing, which was and he walked in all in swagger with his typical jean jacket with looking like a punk, with the long hair and everything. They thought he was going to be, stupid. We're talking, of course, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, and of course, he sits down and he was prepared and he was more, it's funny. All of the artists, all the three artists that they had to come up and talk on the behalf of the music industry and against censorship that they were implying. They had the most articulate people to do that. They couldn't have picked three of the worst the worst ones to try to stick it to. So here you have Dee Snider, and I urge you. I don't want to really go into the history again, but I urge you to check out that video if you have not seen it yet. Okay, if you have, awesome, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't seen it yet, you go watch that first, so I don't have to keep explaining it. I don't want to explain what they all did, but but yeah, they were fighting for freedoms. They were fighting for the Constitution, for the free speech, and even up here in Canada, I feel like I should have the right to express myself however I feel, and and I know some people might be offended by what I'm about to say. I always felt that it's okay to be offended, right? You can be offended. But it's not right, like even with me, like it's not right to get offended. You can be offended, but you shouldn't get offended. Because when you get offended, you start trampling on other people's rights, and when they're not harming anybody, they're not harming anybody. Just because you got offended about something, you can be ruining something great and fun and life giving to other people that they value. So you can't judge a book by their cover. You can't judge a person's, what another person's into. I am happy about that in this day and age, that we are much more accepting of other people's cultures, their genders, their way of life and everything. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I have no objections against that. But what I kind of object to is you know people going a little bit too far with the censorship in issues, and being all offended where they shouldn't be offended, like in our comedy and on our TV shows, and trying to, and I hate to use it, okay, and don't take it out on me, but yeah, when I use that W word, you know it kind of backfired on me. I'm not going to say it, but you know what W word I'm talking about when they go there. But I'm not going to make this too much longer. I'm gonna just go a little bit more, maybe about 4 or 5 more minutes to talk about a little bit here before I let you go. Because, like I said, I want to do part two tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to be a good one too. It's going to be all up there. Now, I want to, yeah, okay. First, I want to bring up these quickly before I get into a list of 8 more songs that were on target. And yeah, I'll get that. I'll get to that. Or should I make this 3 parts? No, I'll make it 2 parts. It's going to be a little bit longer, but who cares? My censorship issues, okay? is every version of this I've gotten, okay, of Pussifer, conditions of my parole, for some reason on the title track of conditions of my parole, there's a part where where Maynard is going, she could be I'm trying to get the song in my head so I can sing it a little bit, you know. What if she's a zombie or a Dracula trying to F and eat me? But they bleep it, that the F word there. And every version I've heard of this, and I would love to get a version that's uncensored. So it's I find that's an interesting oddity. Of course, that's when they can spare not putting the warning on there. Oh, there's no bad word. We bleeped it. It's bleeped, and you can watch the video on YouTube, the director's cut, and it's not bleeped on that, and that's the better cut to watch because it's a funny video. I love it. But of course, let me talk about with putting the middle finger to the PMRC in many ways. So in '92, when the release of Opiate, my favorite band of all time, and when it was this album, okay, the first time I heard this album, they instantly became my favorite band. The first time seeing the video and hearing Hush and the whole I can't say what I want to, even if I'm not serious, I can't say what I want to, even if I'm just kidding, things like go F yourself, go F yourself, you piece of S, why don't you go F yourself? I said, I can't say, expression, free speech, free speech. That's what they're fighting for. If you go and watch the video, it's the band members, all four of them. They're kind of a white, with like in a white with borders that has the parental advisory stickers kind of around it, and they're wearing little cardboard cutouts of the advisory sticker on their private parts, back and front. And they have their mouths bound in an X with duct tape. And at the end of the video, they spew out this white foam out from their mouths, out in between the tapes, as a gesture of, our mouths are being full of this, we're not allowed to speak up, we're not allowed to express ourselves, our artistic freedoms are being stifled. But it didn't matter because it's still, yeah, because the message came loud and clear, and it was that message, the musical quality, and that's what made them my favorite band. It's like the relatability. We tend to love, especially in music, we tend to love that which we relate to the most. That is the beauty and subjectivity of music. And then, of course, briefly talk about prison sex off of Undertow here, where the video was banned from MTV and Much Music. They only played it maybe once, okay, on an episode of Too Hot, for like it was after hours, and it was a special on controversial videos, so that was the only time they played it. So that was the only time I had gotten to see it until I was able to see it on YouTube. So okay, very quickly before I let you go, there's these are I want to talk about these other songs, okay, that still like some are from the '70s, some are from the '80s, and some are from the '90s, and all of these would have had like these were scandalous, scandalous. You get the NWA F the Police from 1988, okay, goes without saying. Sex Pistols, God Save the Queen. That really uproared a lot of people, especially in England and stuff. They go, you can't be saying that, It was banned it by the BBC, and then of course once you're banned by the BBC, all the other stations kind of follow suit because we got to follow what the big bad BBC has to say. And then of course there's XTC with Dear God. Yeah, that's from 1986. That ruffled some feathers. You know, how could you, you know, yeah, and there's just yeah, there's look into that the repercussions that the band had to go through for Dear God. It's insane. And then there's a body count, you know, with Cop Killer, and it's so funny because the song's about revenge for brutality. But the funniest part is when they're classifying the music for that for the genre, they're putting it under rap because it's black guys doing it. Okay, just because it's black guys doing it, the stuffy faces, you know, the stuffy shirts, and the choking themselves with their neckties. Hmm. They mistaken anything that's with black people as rap, and but listen to it. That's not rap. That's metal. That's metal music. It's good rap. It's good metal music too. And so they even had to like eventually like if you have a copy of Body Count with Cop Killer on it, consider yourself lucky because they eventually had to take it off because the controversy was just so much on it that that Ice Cube was like he just didn't want to deal with it anymore, so they replaced it with I think it's freedom of speech or something like that. So yeah, so that's cool. Robin Thicke, Blurred Lines. Ooh, that's a little suggestive, and that would probably go into tomorrow's episode a little bit. But yeah, the video, of course, they did a video that I have seen on Corn Nub, you know, maybe once or twice. But yeah, it stirred some people. That's 2013's, of course, Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke. He used to watch he used to see his dad Alan Thicke on a talk show, and he had that show too. And of course there's the big one with Marilyn Manson in the whole connection with the Columbine thing with the Get Your Gun from 1994. And I remember the first time I saw Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine and how cool that was. There and I can't really say it, but there is a S Side Solutions by Ozzy Osbourne. So that's 1980. And of course, the last on the list, but I've already mentioned it, was Darling Nikki, but I've already mentioned that. That was the first on the list. Yeah, just a last note before I go. This here with the although it has the sticker on it, it came from Walmart, and I don't have anywhere the artwork because I want the artwork of the original intended cover. You know, the censored cover, which was inevitably replaced for that one. That became the new cover, but usually you can buy it, you can get it. Okay, my brother has this, you know, with this cover in front, but he has it where this is not the centerfold; it's the original cover, which is like you know this way. You know which one I'm talking about. I'm not going to describe it, but yep, that's it. That's my part one, and longer than I was expecting to make it. I wasn't going to make it a half an hour. But I'm going to make the other one tomorrow, even though tomorrow is Sunday and I don't usually have a lot of time. I am going to make part two tomorrow because it's a must make. And again, it's going to be a spicy subject, very very similar to this one. Again, I'm going to give my 2 cents, my input, and what I think of it. Again, none of it really bothers me at all so far. I'm not a big I'm not a big fan of censorship. I don't believe so, especially when it comes to music and free expression and that. I really think that we should be able to say whatever we want to. You know, of course, I'm going to say that. You got to expect that. Me being a Tool fan, one can't happen without the other. So it's all connected. All connected. All right, hey everybody, I'm just going to let you go. Wait, yeah. If you subscribe so that you can be here tomorrow to and be notified for when I do have a new video up. I try to make videos every day, and I love talking about music. I want to spice it, like I said, I want to spice up my videos, and this was also very much inspired for me to talk. It was suggested to me that I talk more about stuff like that by my good friend, who you guys know in the chats below as Bunky's Cow, but I know him as Lawrence Mazzo. So he's been a cool guy, and I really like chatting with him and that. And I meant to chat with him tonight, but kind of a lot of things kind of went on tonight. But okay, everybody, before I start babbling, don't be afraid to hit the like button. Please comment. And everybody, have a great day, evening, morning, night, wherever you may be. Be safe, take care, and peace, everybody.